1.1 Functions. Okay, well, you learned functions in college algebra, so I actually made a video for my college algebra class that gives you the definition of the function, some examples of determining if it's a function or not. So you can see that in the notes I provided for you, but I'll also put a link to the college algebra video so that if you want to see some examples done by me, you can watch that video. Basically, it's the beginning examples. Those last examples are good on the college algebra video, but you won't need those for the homework. So watch as much of the college algebra video that you want to. In college algebra, it was section 1.2, so I'll try to put the link in the description for you, or I'll put it on Canvas. In this video, I just want to show extra problems for the difference quotient, because I did some simple ones in college algebra, but you're going to see some with quadratic equations in this class. We need to know the difference quotient when we learn limits and when we learn derivatives, so it's very important that you practice some of these problems in your homework so that you're ready for it when we see it here in calculus. So I've got the first example written for us. Find and simplify each of the following, assuming h does not equal 0 in part C. Okay, well, basically it's breaking up the parts. This is what we're actually finding. This is the difference quotient right here, f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. So we're just going to strictly work with the college algebra, finding the difference quotient. We'll talk about what it means later. So in our first one, they gave us f of x equals 4x minus 1. Well, I'm just going to break it up into the parts that they did here in the homework. So part A, we're finding f of x plus h. Well, this just means they want us to plug x plus h in wherever we see an x. So we've got 4 times, we're plugging x plus h in for the x there, and then minus 1, and then just simplify it as much as possible. So we can distribute the 4, and we get 4x plus 4h minus 1. Well, that's as far as we can go. So let's do the next part, part B. We're taking f of x plus h minus f of x. Okay, well, that's what we just did in the last part. So I'm going to copy down what I got, 4x plus 4h minus 1 minus, and then they want us to subtract what they gave us to begin with, f of x. So 4x minus 1. Since I'm subtracting it and it has more than one term, make sure you put it in parentheses because you want to make sure you're subtracting the whole thing. And then we'll do some simplifying. We can distribute the negative. And then I notice I've got a positive 4x and a negative 4x, so those cancel. I've got a negative 1 and a positive 1, so those cancel. And all I'm left with is 4h. Okay, ready for the last part. F of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Okay, well, the numerator is what we did in the last part. So we got 4h. And the formula says we want to divide it by h. So the h's cancel, and we're just left with 4. Okay, so that was a linear equation. Let's try a quadratic equation, see what happens. It's the same steps. We just need to make sure we can simplify it. So the second one, I've got f of x equals 4x squared minus 7x plus 6. Okay, part A, f of x plus h. Well, we're doing the same thing. This is telling us plug x plus h in wherever we see an x. So we've got 4 times x plus h squared minus 7 times x plus h plus 6. There is a shortcut to square this expression right here. Let's go ahead and do it the long way first, but then I'll remind you of the shortcut because it'll save you a lot of work. Okay, so we've got 4. Squaring it means we're timesing it, multiplying it times itself. So we've got x plus h times x plus h. And I'm going to leave the rest of it alone to begin with. We'll finish it up at the end. Okay, so we're just going to multiply this out, or FOIL. So we've got x times x, x squared. X times h, xh. H times x, it's the same thing, xh. Doesn't matter the order we put it in. And h times h, h squared. Okay, and again, I'm just writing down the rest of it. And then this can simplify the middle terms we can put together. So we've got x squared plus 2xh plus h squared Okay, so let's talk about the shortcut. You can go directly from here to here if you remember the shortcut. So when you're squaring an expression like this, you're squaring the first term, which gives you the x squared. The middle term is the term some students forget about. You multiply the two terms together, and then you multiply times 2. So you've got x times h, which is xh, times 2 is 2xh. And then you square the last term, h squared. Okay, so you can always use that formula to go from here to here if you want to. But if you ever forget, it doesn't take too much extra work to just multiply it out and you get to the same thing. Okay, all right, let's finish simplifying it. So we'll distribute the 4. We've got 4x squared plus 8xh plus 4h squared. And then I'll go ahead and start simplifying this now too. So I'll distribute my -7. So -7x minus 7h plus 6. And now we can put all of our like terms together. Okay, there's no other x squared terms, so I'm going to put 4x squared. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't look like there are any like terms, right? So we don't need to really do this step. Okay, check to see if there's some like terms. There's no like terms in this one, so we'll go ahead and leave it like it is. Part B. We're going to go ahead and take what we just got, f of x plus h, and subtract off f of x. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite what we had, 4x squared plus 8xh plus 4h squared minus 7x minus 7h plus 6, subtracting, parentheses, what we started with. So 4x squared minus 7x plus 6. I'm running out of room. Okay, so when we subtract, so I don't have to rewrite this, just means we're going to change all the signs. So I'm going to turn it to a plus and then switch all the signs in here. And you should see a lot of things canceling out. At this step, there's always something that cancels out. So we've got a positive 4x squared and a negative 4x squared. Let's see, we've got a positive 6 and a negative 6. And we've got a negative 7x and a positive 7x. So we're just left with 8xh plus 4h squared minus 7h. And then we're ready to finish the difference quotient, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Well, the top is what we just did, 8xh plus 4h squared minus 7h all over h. Okay, well, I can factor an h out of all of the terms on the top. And then the h's cancel. So I'm just left with 8x plus 4h minus 7. Okay, there is another example in your notes, so if you want to take a look at that, go ahead and do that, and then try some of the problems from the homework. Let me know if you have any questions.